Welcome. Today I'm going to make a bowl, a very big bowl. In fact, I'm aiming for more than 50 centimeter, hopefully closer to 55, because that's the limit of my kiln. So watch the video till the end to see if I succeed or fail again. To challenge myself even further, I decided to make this with reclaimed clay. I have a bunch of it, so I want to use some of it. This reclaimed clay is a mix of different clays, but mostly grout stoneware, so it should be okay to make this bowl. It is a little bit on the soft side. Now, softer clay is easier to center, so with a big bowl, it's easier to deal with, but it's not as stiff, so it doesn't hold as much when you expand it into a big bowl. So I may need to dry it a little bit on the way to make it a little more stiff and strong. But I think this is, my normal weight only takes up to 5 kilo. I have another weight, but I think this is 7 or something like that. So I hope this is enough. If it's not enough, I can add a little bit on top of it. But first, I will center this. Ooh. So now we have a basic centered bowl or ball of clay. It wasn't that hard. In case you never centered this much clay, just jump into it. It is more about technique and pushing the clay down the side than it is a matter of strength. Of course, it takes some strength, but I'm so super strong, so it's okay. But to make a really wide bowl, it's easier if you have a wider base. Of course, you can make it very narrow, but with a very wide bowl, it's going to be, not so stable. I'm going to use this for mixing up large amounts of vegetables for fermenting. So it needs to be stable. So I want to have a bit of a wider base. So I'm just going to press down this clay and expand the base. So doing this also gives me a better idea of whether I have enough clay or not. And I think it's a little bit on the light side. I think I may need, because also I'm not going to make this super thin because it is a big bowl and needs to have enough strength in the walls. So I'm not going to make it very small. And this is another tip. If you have to center really large amounts of clay, I mean, you can put it all on a wheel and center it. Some people can do that. I've seen potters center like 20, 30 kilo at once. I can't do that. So instead, I'm going to center it in sections. So now we have the first part. It's probably something like, 7 kilo, I would guess. Now I'm just going to prepare this top. It has to be very, very even and not too wet. So I'm just going to even it out and remove any slip there. And I'm going to wedge up another piece of clay, add it to the top, center that, and mix it in together. So this next bowl of clay is much smaller. It's just about 3 kilo, which is nothing compared to this. So I'm going to slam it on the top of this first bowl, and I made it like a little bit of a cone shape here. So when I throw it down, it will kind of splatter out and secure that I don't get any air holes in there, because I really don't want that. It's going to haunt me throughout the throwing of this. So I'm just going to go like this. And so now we have this attached to the first. Now it's just a matter of centering the top. The bottom is already centered, so I'm just going to focus on this. And I'm going to expand it. Oh, ha. My hand slipped there. That's what happens. Now I'm going to slowly expand it into the same size as the lower bowl. So now you see they're becoming one. I'm just going to push this out a little bit further. So yeah, I told you it's not a question of strength, but it do require a little bit of strength. So, but see, it only took a few minutes, and now we have, I don't know, 10, 11, maybe 12 kilo of clay centered here. I don't know exactly how much it is, but I think maybe a little more than 10. And to open up a big bowl like this, it takes a little bit of time. And usually I start out with the middle, always. Get down to something that I think is the right size of the button. And then I'm going to work my hands out by this, pushing it in the button, and then raising up the wall, pushing it in, raising up the wall. Because if you try to push all that clay at once, it very often just ends up wobbling. And you need to compensate with your strong arm, which in my case is the right one, to not push it out of position. So slowly we're getting the button width that I'm aiming for. And now I can compress the button and smoothen it so you get a nice and even button. And as always, for big lumps of clay, I always use my potter needle to just check the thickness. It's a little bit too much, but I don't want it too thin because it will just make a big pot like this too weak. And I'm probably going to throw a foot rim anyway. I'm going to turn it around and throw that tomorrow, one of the next days. Compress the button. Always compress your buttons. It does help prevent any edge cracks. And we don't want that. Now, since it is a ball, I don't want sharp corners. I want to go smoothly into the side of the bowl. So something like this. Now, as it gets bigger, you want to make sure that you don't go too fast, because if you go too fast, you just throw it out of shape. So I don't want that. There's a little bit of I don't know, some metal, something left in my reclaim. That's the challenge of working with reclaim. So now we have it. I think this is about the size of the inner size of the button that I want to have. Just gonna smoothen it a little bit. I love this little, it is small for a big bowl like this, but it still have a nice curve to it, and it works well with bowls. So, and because it is soft, this reclaim, I want to try and not use too much water, and at least not, when I do use water, not let it sit there for too long. So get rid of the slip as we go, because otherwise it will get too weak. Now, some potters throwing a wide bowl like this would just go out to begin with. I'm a little nervous of that, because once it gets out there, it's very difficult to control. So I like to throw it more like a cylinder and maybe even going in a little bit at the top. And then I will expand it, because that way I think it's a little easier to control. But it's a matter of taste and throwing skills. Of course, I do need some water. I don't want my hand to stick to the clay. I'm just going to start out with a little bit of lifting. And make sure you keep enough clay up here, because otherwise when you expand it, it's going to get too thin. Of course, you need to work your way in there to get all that clay from the bottom. And if you start to feel that your hands are dragging, stop. And just make sure you lubricate it enough, and then you can continue. You see, I actually ended up getting a little bit of a width to begin with, which just again shows my limited throwing skills. There's still a lot of clay down here. I would like to see if I can move some of it. You still need a little more clay down here than if it was a small pot, because you need that stability. And then later you can trim some of it off if you want. But if you make it too thin down here and you throw something very tall or very wide, it's more likely to collapse. So if we look at this now, of course it's not even close to being wide enough. It's only about 30. So it needs to be almost twice as wide. So another 15 centimeters each side. And of course, as always, I'm not sure if I have enough clay for that. But I will start out to do the expansion. And I will go very slowly with this. And I may need to dry it a little bit on the way. We'll see. So there's two issues to deal with here. One is, of course, the collapse, the flapping, if it falls down, because you get too wide and not have enough strength down here. And the other thing is to get a smooth inside. Very often when you make bowls, I've done that a lot. It's smooth up here and it's smooth down here, but then you have, some people refer to it as a beginner's shoulder. I think that's a little bit rude, but then you get this little bowl and then you don't have a continuous flow. And that's difficult. And I mean, there's a lot of I mean, tips and tricks on throwing in a bowl to avoid that. But by the end of the day, it's a question of just practicing. Practice, practice, practice. And you see, it's still relatively good shape. So how much did we get? Well, now we gain 10 centimeter, so it's about 40. But we need at least another 15. But I'm getting confident now that it should be possible. I'll just smoothen the inside a little bit. Not just to make it look good, but also to get rid of any slip, anything that weakens the clay. So, but it actually looks very nice and smooth. And at this point also you have to be careful with your buckets and your body because now of course it's getting bigger than your wheel. And now I think I will actually dry it a little bit down here because I'm not going to do much more shaping down here. Actually, I will do a little bit, so I need to. Even if you end up with a bit of that shoulder on the inside, with an open form like this, it's very easy to trim it on the inside. So if the walls are still thick enough, you can just trim it away and get a very smooth inside, even if you are not able to do it perfectly in your throwing. So don't worry about that. Some would call that cheating. I just call it, whatever works, works. Just going to remove the slip on the outside because that's just going to make it more work to dry. So this way, and then I'll just give it a little bit of a dry down here. I'm not going to show you all the drying. It'll probably take another 5-7 minutes or something. So it's going to be really boring to watch. So let me just take out the water on the inside. Now I'm going to dry it, and I'm going to dry it both on the inside and the outside, but primarily on the lower part because that's where we need strength. I'm not going to show you all of it. It is going to take a few minutes. Some people use a gas blower. I don't have a good one, and it's inside, so I'm like, So I'm just using this, feel a little more safe, but it's also a little slower. So let's try. I think this is good enough. And how do you judge that? Again, it's a question of experience, but you can sort of wiggle it a little bit. And if it feels like it's a little more stiff, it probably holds better. So at least I'm going to try with this. And of course, now it can seem a little bit counterproductive to add water again. But I need that to lubricate the surface. Otherwise, my hands are going to stick when I throw. So I'm just trying not to over soak it in water, but we do need some water to be able to throw on it and have our fingers go smoothly through the clay. So gonna make it wider now. One of these big curvy ribs can be helpful in making sure that you still have a smooth inside and a curve that fits what you need and want. And you see, I still have quite a lot of clay up here, which is nice. I think, I mean, it's a design issue, but I think for a big bowl like this, it looks funny if the rim is like super thin. I don't like that. I think it needs to have something, yeah. Well, it's a design issue. So let's just check how wide it is now. It's 45. So ideally, it should get 10 centimeter wider. I'm not sure if we can get that much out of it, but let's see. Also, when you get to this size, and don't turn it too fast, but remember that it actually takes some time to get a full circle. If you're moving your hands too quickly, you're getting a spiral, and you want the whole circle to get the same pressure. So it will take a little bit of time to do that. So now I'm getting to a point where I can feel that it's very dangerous because it's not flapping yet, but it could very easily. So let's see what we have now. We have 47, 8, something. So because now it's actually hanging out here, it's defeating gravity. It is. It is very risky at this point. It could very easily flap. So I think once again, I'm just gonna scrape it a little bit, and then I will heat it a little bit more. Another thing you could do is just let it sit on your wheel, let it spin very slowly for the next day or something. At least 5, 7, 8 hours, maybe even more, and then you can continue throwing. It works for some. I just don't have the patience for that. I would like to finish this now. So I'll just give it a little bit of artificial drying with my heat gun. I think it's going to be okay. Yeah. Again, just smoothen the outside. Or get rid of the slip that's piling up there. But one thing that's good, you see, it's actually almost not wobbling at all, which is good at this point. But even if there's a little bit of wobbling, and there could come some wobbling when it's drying, don't worry too much, because it has to be a lot before you actually see it when the bowl is done and just sit there on a table. Have to be actually really bad before you see that. So I do think that I would like this to go out a little more. So check again. It's almost 50. So we just need 5 centimeters more. But I will dry it and I will let it sit a little bit. But I'm not going to bore you with that. So I'm going to get back when I'm ready to see if I can get the last 5 centimeters out of it. Now I dried it a little bit more. It's a little more stable. I'm not sure if it's stable enough. I'm going to push out the bottom a little bit, or the lower part of the bowl. And I'm compensating here at the top, otherwise it will just flap out, or whatever you would call that. But anyway, get very wobbly. Just going to try and smooth out the lower part of the inside. And down here, you can actually apply quite a lot of pressure because you have more clay and there's more stability. It's only when you get up, higher up here, that you need to loosen up and not apply too much pressure at once, because otherwise just flop out. And then as always, take your hands off very smoothly, not push it too much at once. So I think we're getting closer now. Yeah, 52. So I still think we need to pull this in or push this in just a little bit. Whoa, see, now it's flopping. Yeah, I failed. See, it was getting too weak here. I think maybe I can save this, maybe not. I don't think so. See, it's breaking up here. It was getting too weak here. And this is exactly what can happen. Of course, it's terribly annoying to fail. And I was thinking, should I put that part of the video up or skip it? Because it's also sort of embarrassing. But then again, it's not. Because we all fail. And it's part of pushing the limits. And I did, because I wanted to make the biggest bowl and I wanted to use reclaim. And yeah, I did a lot of things wrong. So this time I'm going to try again. But I'm going to try again. And this time I think I will try and make it wider at the bottom to begin with before I widen the top. I think that's going to make it more strong down here so it won't hopefully collapse. And I'm actually going to aim a little bigger because I forgot to mention one thing in the beginning. When I did my biggest bowl so far, it was actually 54 centimeter. But then over the next 24 hours, when it dries, it raised itself. So within 24 hours, it became 4 or 5 centimeter less wide. So I'm aiming for 60 centimeter now. I'm not sure I'm gonna reach that, but at least I'm gonna try. So I'm just gonna get ready. This time I wetted up the clay again, and I have 3 balls. So I'm gonna put them together. I'm not gonna be talking so much this time. I'm just gonna do it and see. Hopefully it's gonna go better. So keep your fingers crossed for me. So you see, I think it's a bit higher than the first one, which I guess is good. And now I want to try and expand it down here a little bit before I move it up to make sure that I have enough of a base to widen it on, if it makes sense. So now we have much more of a traditional bowl shape here. And so I think there's a little more solid ground, so to speak. And I think that's going to help me. And now I'm almost ready to expand it, but I want to heat it up now. We have about 35 centimeter here or something, so it needs to be twice that size. But now I think this lower part is better. So before I do much more stretching, I think I want to heat it up and strengthen it a little bit. Just want to smoothen it. So now I think it's strong enough to continue, and I want to do that by stretching out the lower part a little bit more and then extending it to the upper part. There are different strategies. What I was taught was to extend the upper part and then move it down. But that was for much smaller bowls. And with these big ones, unless you have the support down here, expanding it to the top can very easily end up with the result we had in the first test. So I'm just gonna see if we can expand it down here a little bit first. I think it's a better sign here. I will also try, this is something that I'm not very good at, but it's actually very good if you can be good, is using a rib both on the inside and the outside, because it's gonna apply a more even pressure. And especially with something like this, it's actually very good technique if you master it, which I don't fully, but I'll just try and go easy and see. Also, when using ribs, both on the inside and the outside, you don't need as much water, and that's good. So instead, you're actually going to scrape off some of that slip water, whatever you have, and that's good. Let's just check it. It's about 39 centimeter. So we got another 10 centimeter this way, which is a good start. So we just need 10 centimeter on each side more to reach 60, which is still a huge challenge. I'm just gonna try and see if I can make it not flop. And as you see, I'm not going all the way up because I still want to maintain quite a lot of clay at the rim. For two reasons. I think it looks good, but also when it's drying, there's a risk, even though at this point it's not wobbling at all, but when it dries, it can wobble. It can start wobbling because it doesn't dry evenly, maybe. By having a thicker rim, you somehow prevent it a little bit. Now at 45, so another 15, if possible. I think you now see that it's going quite steam out here, maybe 45 degrees, and then we still have a piece left here that's almost vertical. So I can still lay that out, but this of course is the weak point. So I think at this point I'm going to apply a lot of heat here and maybe even let it sit for a little bit, and then I will get back to it and to you. So let's see, 48, so getting closer. It's not too bad. I think it's actually better than the first one. I'm optimistic as always. $52, but I don't know if I can stretch it out more. I probably can, but I will try it a little bit more. Now I'm just gonna let it spin around a little bit. I don't know, drink a cup of coffee, half an hour or something. It will firm up a little bit and it will hopefully allow me to get it just a little bit wider. But right now it looks good. There's hardly any wobbling. See, it's spinning very even, which is, I think, impressive considering the weight, reclaim, soft clay, and the size of it so far. So I'll get back to you in a few. So it had a little bit of time to settle, and I'll see if I can just give it a little bit more. It's limited how much more I can go. It's a little bit on the thick side here, I think. Let me just see here. It is 54, so I'm at the size, the biggest size that I ever made. I did make one same size, but not anything bigger. So let me see if I can somehow get this evened out a little bit. I think that actually gave me just a little bit. Are we on the edge now? Yeah, it is not bigger, but got a little more even here, which is good too. So let me just try and see if I can stretch this a little bit more. It does feel a lot stronger than the last one that flopped. So hopefully at least this one will survive. Whether or not it's going to be a record, but we'll see. So I'm beginning to get to the point where I'm afraid of doing anything more, and it's bigger than ever. It's 56. So it is a record already. So let's see if I can just even this out a little bit. I really don't dare to do anything more because it is on the edge. It haven't flopped yet, but I have a feeling that if I do anything more, it will. So I think this is the one, and I will just give it a little bit of heat here. So it's not perfect, but it's better and it's wider. So I still have a bit to learn, but I'm not giving up. I will continue to make more white bowls like this until I really get the hang of it. And I hope that you're not giving up either, and that you enjoyed my multiple failures today. But next week I'm gonna have another video at Sunday, 5 p.m. Central European time. So I hope to see you. And if you do like my channel, please show your support by subscribing, sharing, write a comment. Hope to see you soon next week.